Update AITA for being hurt. My wife won't let me see the birth of our baby and asking for space. Thank you all for your input and advice. Update 1. September 23, 2022. My wife had the baby and they're both healthy. I asked her on her due date if she still didn't want me to be there, and she said she wasn't sure. She was very stressed during labor and I could tell she was really anxious, so I did my best to comfort her and didn't ask. She did ask me to leave when it was time to push, and I came back when our daughter was born. I didn't catch her, but I got to cut the cord and I held her first, which I am very grateful for. Things were okay with my wife for a while until she dismissed how I felt about missing the birth and said I was making a big deal out of a couple minutes. I then found out the reason she excluded me was because she was scared I would stop being attracted to her. I kinda lost it and I regret it. But I was sleep deprived and told her that I was disappointed in her as a mother, and she put her vanity before our kid and before me. My wife then asked for marriage counseling. We're on a wait list for a first appointment. We've been very cold towards one another when we're alone, and we will probably fight soon again. I know it's not the best way to be when we have a newborn, but I can't help but blame her for this situation. I will be going back to work soon, so I'm hoping the distance work gives me from her will help me calm down and gather the strength to be more mature about it all. Update 2. The 10th of January 2023. Wife and I separated for a couple months but decided to work on our marriage. Bigger issues rose to the surface in marriage counseling, and wife did apologize for keeping me out of the delivery room, although she affirmed in the same sentence that if we have a second child, she'd ask me to stay outside again. She just will not trust me to not lose attraction to her. I had never realized just how deeply insecure she is about her looks and how it affects every part of her daily life. She's a pretty woman and she always acted very confident, but it was mostly a facade that completely crumbled with the pregnancy. We ran into some issues with breastfeeding related to that, where she would eat very little to lose the pregnancy weight, and it caused her to produce less milk, consequently stressing her and the baby out more. I begged her to postpone her diet until our baby is a little older, but it was so important for her to lose weight first. I tried supporting her, but I was going through my own struggles and I couldn't understand how she could put that over the health of our baby. We're determined to make our marriage work, and I'm going to do my best to understand her struggles with self-image. I've come to accept that seeing the birth of any child I have with her will not be possible. Original post for your Friday coffee break. Pregnancy changes everything. Don't assume she was putting up a facade of confidence before. She could have been very confident, and then the changes to her body destroyed that confidence. That can be very jarring. Not that she doesn't need help, but try reframing how you see this. She's afraid of losing your love and losing you because of the changes to her body and how you see her. And why is she afraid? Because it happens. I cannot not tell you how many women I know who have seen how their husbands view and relate to them change wildly and often cruelly after kids. Men who seemed in every way to be devoted husbands and sure to be good fathers just became so contemptuous and judgmental of their wives' bodies. So it's hard for any woman to trust, even if you swear up and down you won't. Especially if she's struggling with negative feelings to her own body, and especially if she's not used to having negative feelings about her body. This is a tough one. Diet culture is a disease, and you're married to a long-term case. Try this one on for size. What if you replace attractiveness and vanity and how attractive she is with her control over her body? She didn't want you in the room for the birth because she wanted to retain a sliver of control over her body and how it's seen. She doesn't want to eat enough to breastfeed easily because she wants to regain control over how her body is shaped. Does that give you a little more insight? A lot of times in pregnancy and birth and feeding, the pregnant person needs some kind of control over a process that often seems to happen without their input, and this is in loving families with wanted pregnancies. Very few people get pregnant and then have it go exactly how they wanted, expected and hoped. No amount of dieting, exercise or anything else will change what a pregnancy does to a body. And if her pride is in how she looks and the control she has over how she looks, going through a year or more in which that entire foundation crumbles has to be really rough. Nah, I think you're both victims of an image-obsessed culture that neither of you will ever fully unlearn. Good luck in the times ahead. Old age comes for us all. I'm not the same as your wife, but I get where she's coming from. This is ripping off a podcaster I really like, but she described her feelings about her post-baby body like this to her fiancé. What if having a child removed 1.5 inches from your dick? You want a child. You decided it's worth it. Your wife would be there the whole time telling you it's natural and she'll love your new, shorter dick, and that the process of having a child is so beautiful. You'd probably still have feelings about your dick being 1.5 inches shorter. She still has feelings about how her body has changed. She's having trouble dealing with those feelings in a perfect way. We all are. Your wife's feelings may seem extreme to you, but they are valid. Let me share my personal experience. My 48 meters partner did lose his attraction to me. 38F. After seeing me give birth, he told me he would never look at me the same way after seeing my body postpartum and all the things that came out of it. He also has said that he has struggled to be sexually attracted to me since he saw me give birth. He is not someone I ever expected to tell me this, much less feel this way. I was devastated by it. It likely has ruined our relationship. But he said it so callously and indifferent to my emotions about what I went through. I am flabbergasted. He also has said many hurtful things about my body and excused it by saying he can't help what he is attracted to. He cannot understand why I'm still so hurt by it. He also admitted he wasn't attracted to me at 10 months postpartum and pressured me to lose the baby weight. We're together for now, but his careless words destroyed my already fragile self-esteem, and now over a year later I still have disordered eating. The words about him not being sexually attracted to me after birth happened just a couple months ago. Our child is 2 now. I lost about 25 pounds in a few months earlier this year. So at less than 18 months postpartum I was at my pre-pandemic, pre-pregnancy weight. I'm now 5 feet 7 inches and 155. So I know I'm looking good now, and I can tell my partner is attracted to me again, and it just makes me feel worse about the whole thing. Like he didn't value me at all unless I'm attractive to him. Like he doesn't care what I went through physically or emotionally to bring our daughter into this world. I know he didn't want to marry me when I was overweight. He was much less kind to me. Never took photos of me. Now I just cannot even see him with love, even though Mount Heart still loves him. So please listen to your wife's feelings. I hope therapy helps your wife. She's clearly really struggling with her self-esteem and mental health. Hopefully any PPD will be picked up on. I understand it's hard for you, but keep trying to see it from her perspective if you can. I think you're doing the right things. Pregnancy and childbirth isn't always a positive experience for a lot of women. Wife is not the awe. She probably heard stories of men being creeped out and losing interest in the wife for a while. A friend of mine witnessed a C-section and was totally freaked out by seeing the layers being cut and seeing the inside of his wife. They had a dead bedroom for some 6 months until he got over that. Look, I'm a woman. Once I saw a video of a birth with the baby crowning and was absolutely terrified. So probably wife didn't want to be seen in that state, and you should respect her. Real hard to read, you just dismissing your wife's desire for control and autonomy over her body during her most vulnerable time as vanity. Women are told constantly that men lose attraction if they witness their wife giving birth. They're told constantly that bouncing back after baby is a priority. To say her confidence was a facade because she experienced fear at those things that are shoved at women their entire lives is incredibly out of line. You still seem arrogant and condescending. I hope you can learn that this isn't so much about vanity as it is about a desire to control one's body during dangerously vulnerable times. Oh, and to be cold to her? After she birthed your child. And by the way, you were immediately there to hold baby first and cut the cord. And you're concerned she dismissed your feelings? She just had a baby. She just had a major medical event. She doesn't need to cater to your preference or your feelings in that time. And again, you weren't totally shut out. Just shameful. And by the way, after reading this, I wouldn't trust you not to lose attraction either. Seeing as the moment she exhibited any sort of self-consciousness, you call her vain and confidence a facade. Have you considered your reactive and arrogant nature is precisely what suggests you can't be trusted not to make a snap judgment about her body that sticks? I find it completely odd that wife is made into vain evil partner because she wanted to push alone. On one hand, I get why you want to be there. On the other, when it comes to who is in room while going birth and pushing, she should really be entitled to ask for lonely comfort if she needs that without being willified. You got to cut the cord and hold baby as first, and that is just not enough. You don't seem to realize that the issue here isn't that you're hurt, but that you've been making you being hurt your wife's problem for the last however many months. There's this idea of rings of support, where when someone is going through a difficult time like an illness or in this case pregnancy, they have concentric rings of support. People who are close to them, then less close, then even less close, etc. The person going through the thing can ask anyone for support. The people in the support ring give support to the person going through the thing or more inner circles, and get support from outer circles. It was fine that you were hurt and needed support, but you should have gone to a trusted friend or a therapist and worked things through with them, instead of continuously adding stress to your pregnant postpartum wife. Look, only one person has any right to decide who is in the hospital room during their medical procedure, and that's the person having the procedure, your wife. Your feelings are very valid and everything, but your wife is not just a mother. She is her own person. She doesn't cease to exist as a person just because she had a child. This is for the anger you have for her going on the diet for vanity. For women, it's much deeper than that. We grow up being told that if we are not thin models, we are unworthy or love and attraction and whatnot, that we start hating ourselves. I am sure she must have been struggling with self-hatred if she decided to take the step to just stop eating. Think of this as a call in the dark to save her from drowning. She did what could to keep herself afloat. I am not saying what she did was not wrong. She should have told you immediately and should have put the baby on formula. Not excusing it, but I am just saying that understand it from her point of view. I am not even telling you to forgive her. Just show empathy. As for the birth, it wasn't that she didn't trust you. It wasn't about you at all. It was her deep fear of losing you over the childbirth. Don't you see? She is struggling to hold on to you, and in her mind she is rationalizing everything. I am glad you are in therapy, but have some empathy for her. It's not about vanity, as you keep repeating. Again, not telling you your feelings are wrong. Just telling you to understand and calm down and walk with her. Work with her on this recovery with empathy. I think you're the A for the disappointed in her as a mother. Her feelings and insecurities don't just stop when she has a kid. And if y'all switch to formula, the baby will be fine. YTA. Because you don't communicate well. But I do understand your wife. As someone who gave birth twice, you have no idea of the physical and psychological changes a woman goes through. Honestly, I didn't want my husband in the room either and don't understand women that want to. You can throw all the rocks you want. It will not change my mind. Breastfeeding is hard. Harder than birthing. Sleep deprived. It hurt like hell when the baby would be sucking. I got intrusive thoughts and horrible baby blues. Add the gastric reflux. The lochia. Not being able to sneeze without peeing yourself. Yep. I did not feel attractive. I felt like a big bottle attached to the child. It did not make me love it, but resent it, and I wanted my whole life back. I quit breastfeeding, started formula, and started feeling better. More as my old self. Got nicer clothes. Started feeling more attractive. Going out. That made me love my baby boy. Connect to him and want to have a second one 2 years later. But if my husband had been preaching to do what he thought was best for the baby, I think I would had hated them both. What is best for the baby is a happy mother that loves him, not breast milk from a resentful one. YTA. There are two separate issues here. The first is whether or not your preference is more important than your laboring wife's preference. It's not. It's insane you think your experience of her delivery is more important than her experience of her delivery. Women die during childbirth. It's one of the hardest things anyone will do. It baffles me that as a husband and father you wouldn't want to do everything you could. Which is honestly not much, because in that moment it doesn't have anything to do with you. To support her. If you are disappointed in her as a mother, which is a wildly awful and manipulative thing to say to your wife, she is likely disappointed in you as a husband and father, because even this moment, you couldn't prioritize her. Aside from that, she did let you in the room the moment the baby arrived. So what are we talking about? Your ego was hurt that she asked you to leave for some of the delivery, because that is the remarkable level of entitlement you feel. The second issue is you have decided you don't agree with the reason she asked you to leave, and now you are belittling her and using that as evidence that she's a bad and vain mother. See later example of breastfeeding. That's not the point. She doesn't need a reason for asking you to leave the delivery room. She certainly doesn't need to give you a reason you approve of. She is allowed to ask you for any reason or no reason at all, because it's her choice, because she's the one giving birth. Any person who works in a hospital knows this. Your wife is the patient, not you. With or without you, she can give birth. Without her, there is no birth. This is not an equal process, and that's part of the gravity and gratitude most men feel when their partners birth their children. It's convenient for you that you get to parade her reason around as evidence that she's vain. This is the part other commenters are supportive of, because it's a simple equation to decide being a parent is sacred and being vain is vulgar, and thus, you must be right. But every reason or no reason is fine, because it's her body and it's happening to her, and in that moment being supportive looks like doing what she needs to feel comfortable. All of this points to how manipulative and adolescent you are. You are even being manipulative in your post by adding additional evidence to how insecure and vain your wife is dieting. Good luck with couples therapy. Birth is not a spectator sport. Some women don't want to be seen in such a vulnerable and painful moment. The husband really needs to respect her decision, as it is hers only to make. YTA. Giving birth is far from being easy. As a man, you are free from the pain she has to undergo while giving birth. You had only one job. Make your wife the more comfortable as you can so she can deliver without any stress, but instead, You are making her even more stressful. I can understand you want to be there during the delivery, but you should have put your wife's interests before yours. And just because of this, you are now both taking a break from your relationship. Was it worth it? To see her giving birth, but now losing your relationship over it? Listen, men contribute with alem and loving support during pregnancy. Women deal with pain, discomfort, a changed body forever. Breastfeeding. So give her a break and respect her wishes of all times during birth. Man. Listen. Your first update you said you told your wife, "I'm disappointed in you as a mother." That, right there, makes YTA. Your instinct is to say something that is intended to do nothing but hurt someone else. That isn't constructive. It isn't the kind of statement that brings you and your wife back together. It's the kind of statement intended to hurt and nothing else. Be better. I'll admit it seems like you're trying to be. But I hope you aren't attending counseling with the idea that you simply need to help your wife. You need help too, and I hope you realize that. YTA, honestly, you're a bad husband. You seem to think giving birth is special magical bonding time for you and the baby, and it isn't. It is your wife's painful, excruciating medical procedure. It's fine that you're hurt that you didn't get to be there. We all feel hurt or angry about things we know logically are unreasonable. What's not fine is you are making it her problem. Be an adult and take responsibility for your own problems if she can't exercise her bodily autonomy. Without you throwing months-long tantrums, then you don't actually believe she deserves bodily autonomy. You think her body exists for your wants and not her own. Your equal right to the baby starts after it is no longer inside her. You make it sound like she is starving the baby for her vanity, and that's just not what is happening. Doing a combo of breastfeeding and formula is extremely common. As long as the baby is being properly fed and she isn't eating harmful things while breastfeeding, you don't have any right to dictate what she eats. I also question your narrative. Is she extreme dieting or just imposing some restrictions? Finally, you seem to think all of her concerns are silly, vain and vapid, which is probably the most unkind way to read them. Especially considering a lot of women have experienced the concerns your wife has.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.